This is 210 Local Music Podcast. We bring art, music, and entertainment to you straight from the Alamo City in San Antonio, Texas, where the culture of our past and the innovation and creativity of tomorrow collide. We're there. You can find us online at www.210localmusic.com, on Twitter, and don't forget to like our fan page on Facebook. Here's your host, Mario Zamaron.
Thanks for tuning back into 210 Local Music Podcast. You're listening to Episode 5, which is Part 3 of my interview with Michelle Celeste, the tour manager for Girl in a Coma. First of all, I'd like to thank my wife for giving me the idea of asking the very first question in this segment of the episodes. This actually allowed for Michelle and I to open up a whole other topic of discussion, which is her next big project that she actually just started working on the same day that I got to interview her. I'll let you listen in. I don't want to spoil any surprises. So if somebody were to write a biography about you, what would the title be?
Well, actually, I am going to write a book.
Awesome.
Yes. And
Very cool.
I just, a friend of mine that I don't know if you saw when Fani had put on Facebook that they were looking for a Saul from Nina's solo show.
Yes.
Okay. They were looking for him for me because that night I met him. Like, he came and sat at the table. I wasn't working during this time. I went on vacation and I just kind of went on the road with the girls. Mm-hmm. And so the girls were doing their own little tour managing. And, well, that night, this guy came and he sat with me and we talked and everything. And it was cool and it was a great conversation. It felt like if I'd known this guy forever. Yeah. And we were just friends that met up again and started, catching up. So it was cool. Well, that night I didn't get a number or anything. And I was like, I should have got a number. And even Jimmy was there. Mendiola, mm-hmm. And he was like, did you get that guy's number? And I was like, no. And he's like, man, he was really into you. And I was like, oh, man, I didn't know. So anyways, I end up finding him, and we exchanged numbers. We end up talking on the phone, and I don't know what we're talking about, but we start talking about stories of, shit that we've been through. And I'm telling him, like, some random stories of, like, getting pulled over by cops and, like, getting away with it. And I have, like, several that I'm telling him. And he's like, wow, you should write a book about this. And then, like, because I've always enjoyed writing. Mm-hmm. And, like, I like to write just random stuff. And I've been told, by not just him, but, like, other people, like, you should write a book. Because some of the stuff that I've done is just so stupid, but for some reason I like get away with stupid shit. I don't know what it is, but like I've been pulled over and like gotten away with it, and like I don't know, it's just really weird. Well, anyways, so and I always wanted to, but I never knew how I would
go about it.
Yeah, or even structure it. Like what kind of book would it be, or what would it do, or like I don't know. I knew I would want to, but I just didn't know how
to start.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I was like, well, I'm not even anybody. Who's going to want to read my story? Who's going to want to read...
Says the person who is now currently being interviewed by somebody who wants to hear her story. So obviously I think there's that opportunity.
Well, the way I see it now is, since he said that, I started thinking, I have tons of stories of where I did get away with shit. Like, even just alone of just getting pulled over by cops. Tons of times of getting away with it, knock on wood. But, and some of the shit that I was doing was just so stupid. And why didn't they take me to jail? But they didn't. So, those little stories, I was like, that could be a chapter right there. And then I started thinking, when I was a kid, I was a weirdo. Like, I was something else. No shame. Still to this day, actually. I was like, that right there, my childhood would be a story right there. Like, a chapter right there. And then I was like, my high school years were crazy. Like, the shit that I got myself into is just ridiculous. That would be a chapter. So then I started thinking, like, I have all these different chapters. Of course, touring would be a chapter.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, like, I was with this one guy for so many years. So he would have a chapter all his own because there were so many different stories that went with him. And, you know, it was just like, wow, there would be all these different chapters, and this is how I can put this book together.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking, like, I want this book to come out like if, when you're reading, I want the reader to feel like if I'm telling them a story. Like, it's me actually talking. I want my Tex-Mex to come out. I want everything. Like, if I say anything, I want it to sound exactly like if I'm
like you
talking
would deliver
to you.
it.
Yeah. And so
no biography, but autobiography then.
yeah.
So what would the title be? Have you thought of it?
Necia.
And that's the word that's been in my head. Every time you're like, oh man, I used to be this. I used to do this. I'm like,
And that's all it is. It's me being a little Necia shit. And it would be
I think
perfect.
that could relate to so many people.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, I had to get some, I had to have people actually tell me, like, yeah, I would want to read that book. Because, you know, I bounced off the idea. Like, I told Fani, I told Danny, I told, like, Laura, like, a couple of my really good friends, like, would you, okay, like, the way I worded it was, if you went into Barnes & Noble or any kind of bookstore and you saw this book and the title was Necia, and you opened it up to see, like, I mean, if it caught your eye already,
Yeah.
because, you know, being Hispanic, like, that's a word that you know.
Right.
So if you saw that, like, I know that if I went into a book and I saw a bookstore and I saw that, I would be like, oh, what is this about?
Yeah.
So you would pick it up, and then you open it up, and it tells you that it's about a girl who grew up in San Antonio, Texas, who is Latina, who, you know, and it tells you about all her little Necia ways growing up until this day. Would that appeal to you? Would you want to buy that book?
Oh, yeah.
And everybody was like, yeah, that's a good book. Like, you know, you would... It's something that... And even though it would be marketed more towards the Latino community, you know, like everybody...
Oh, it would appeal to everybody.
Yeah, I think that once people started reading it, and... Because some of the stories are just... It's funny, like, I say them and I think, God, I can't believe I did that. I was such an idiot. But it's me being Necia. Like,
Yeah.
I have no shame and I don't give a shit. And that has a lot to do with how I don't know. The book would just be hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
And
I can definitely tell already.
And that's what
I would definitely read it.
Yeah, well, good. Then you'll get a copy.
Awesome. And then maybe we'll do another podcast specifically on the book.
It's
start
really,
marketing.
I mean, I'm really excited about it. Like, even though it's just a thought right now, in fact, after this, I'm going to go buy a voice recorder because
Oh, okay.
it's hard for me to sit at a computer and, like, just type what I'm thinking. I actually want to have a recorder so I can just talk into it. Like, if I'm talking to a friend.
Yeah.
Talk into it, and then that's how I'm going to type it out.
Well, I think that's how you'll find your voice in the book.
Yeah. I want it to really sound like if I am sitting there with a friend and just telling you stupid stories that, you know, the kind of stories that you tell people when you first get to know them, you know, and like, oh, have you ever done this? And, and you know, you just like kind of, oh, this one time, you know, that kind of stuff. And I have a lot of this one time stories. Tons of them, actually.
That should be the name of a chapter. This one time.
This one time. ...
Oh,
man. Yeah, no, that actually is a good idea. But yeah, no, so I plan on writing a book. I have my my cover already set. I know what I want it to look like. That's a secret.
Then we'll save that for later.
Yes. But the title would be Necia because I can't think of anything else better, and it's perfect because, I mean, it totally is perfect.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so that would be, it's funny that you asked about the book, because yeah, I totally would. I'm going to be doing that, so.
That's great.
I'm excited about it, I really am, and like, just knowing that I know how I want it to go now. Yeah. Before, it was just a thought. Like, I would want to write a book, but I don't know. And then who knows? In fact, I was talking to Fanny about it today. I was telling her that after I was going to do this, I was going to go buy a recorder. I was like, because I'm going to start working on my book. She was like, awesome, man. And she was like, man, it'd be crazy if you like became this best-selling author. She's like, people are going to be asking, where's Knuckles? Oh, she's a novelist now. Stupid. And so it's funny. And she's like, and then you could even go on like book tours and stuff.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I was like, yeah.
They can open for you.
Girl, Coma and Michelle.
This is A. Foss, and you are listening to 210 Local Music Podcast.
Danny Constante Delgado, depends on. He's the owner of High Tones.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's a very talented guy. I mean, he worked with San Antonio Cultural Arts for a while, and I think he even ran a school. I mean, I could be talking out of my ass, but I think that's the case. But he got his shit together, and that's awesome for him. And he sent me a link, and I read it early this morning. Actually, I woke up I don't know what time, but I read it, and
Yeah, I think you woke up before me this morning. Even with my
probably
7-month-old waking me up, you were already.
Yeah, and it's funny because with all the drinking that I do, I don't get hangovers. For some reason, I just don't. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have had hangovers before.
Yeah.
I don't get them as much as I guess I should. And if I do, maybe if I've had a crazy night of drinking, maybe I'll have a headache in the morning. But that's pretty much it. That's the extent.
So then you got your resistance up.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's going on.
You're immune to the alcohol at this point.
Mm-hmm. But so I told Danny that I would send him some stuff, send it because I would really want him to read it, because I know that he would give me whatever feedback
Pointers.
it is, whatever it may be. And I'm always open to criticism, constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And I would really like for Faith and Jimmy to read some chapters, because Jimmy has always told me that he thought that I should do a tour manager blog.
Oh yeah,
like
definitely.
That. Yeah. Well, it
could be an audio. It could be a podcast.
That's true.
Because that's exactly what I started. I started with a blog and decided it wasn't the format that I enjoyed. I wanted to interact rather than have to write things down, and rather than have to recall. Even today when I was interviewing Pinata, when I was leaving, I was thinking of all these words to describe what was happening, and all the powdered paint everywhere on the ground at AfterRad. And yeah, the words were in my head, but the idea of having to write them down, the idea of having to, I got to get this in order, I have to remember it the right way, how's it going to sound? It just doesn't do justice compared to the spoken word, just compared to thoughts coming out of my mouth, and they're there.
Yeah.
So I totally understand wanting to get an audio recorder and get started that way, and that could be a podcast format.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
If you're interested in advertising with 210 Local Music Podcast, please contact me at 210localmusic@gmail.com. You can also find me on Square at www.squareup.com/market/210-local-music.
This is Michelle Celeste, and you're listening to 210 Local Music Podcast.
Interested in being the focus of a broadcast? Contact us at 210localmusic@gmail.com or info@210localmusic.com. And don't forget to like our Facebook page.
And what's funny is I've thought about this whole book thing. The stories that I have, there's some, and I was even telling Fonnie when I was the idea was in my head. We were actually, Fonnie, Danny, and myself, we went to Austin to go see Cyndi Lauper recently on Tuesday.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we went on Tuesday. We went to Austin, and on the way back, I'm talking about this book, and I'm like, the thing about it is I'd really be opening up myself to the public. I was really telling people stories.
They would know your last name.
Yeah, they would know my last name.
And you would show up on Google searches too.
Yeah, it's true. But I was saying I really would open up myself and tell people stories that nobody really knows. I haven't told complete stories. I'll tell somebody a version of something, but nobody would know the actual complete version. And
good. You saved it. You saved the best stuff for the book.
Yeah.
And you were doing that all the time, not realizing.
I guess so. Yeah. But yeah, so there's stories that are just. Some of the shit that I've done is just I don't even believe that I did that.
And survived, or?
It's not even survived. It's just
got away with it.
How do I get away with that stupid shit? And Laura, my best friend, she seems to think She's like, it's because you look like a little girl, and you have like, I mean, sometimes I'll get. I mean, right
innocence,
now I have like
the
a bow
bow.
on my hair, so she's like, it's because you look all innocent, and you're just like, oh, I'm sorry, officer. And, and I was like,
It's okay.
I
This
don't
is
know
just
if
a warning.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it is, but knock on wood. So far, I have not like done anything. Well, I've never really done
Jail
anything
time
like,
worthy.
well, I have been to jail before.
Oh.
But it was a long time ago, and I was young and dumb, and I was never like booked to where I was like in an actual cell. I was always in the holding cells and stuff.
Always in the holding cell.
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times, like it's 3 times, and I did have a mugshot taken, so you probably could Google that and find it. But yeah, I was 21, and it was public intoxication.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, fun times. But I don't know. And my mugshot picture is horrible because the 3rd time that I went in, I saw it and I was like, oh my God, is that me? And the cop was like, yeah. And I was like, oh God. He's like, if you want, we could take you back to the station and you could take another one. And I was like, no thanks.
So did they give you a copy of it or anything?
No, I didn't want it.
You should get that for the inside of the book.
That actually is a good idea. I'll throw that in there. I actually wanted to put some pictures and stuff, but then I was thinking because I want to change everybody's names. Like I don't want
You want to protect people.
Yeah, I don't want everybody to have like I'm going to change the names and stuff, and so I was thinking, well, the pictures might not help unless like certain people are all right with me using their real names. Then I'll just have pictures of me and them, or because like I have pictures of like stupid shit too.
Yeah.
So that would be fun to throw in the mix. But that mugshot is a good idea.
That should be in the inner fold of the book cover, the back.
Oh man.
Or hey, why not the back cover or something? I don't know.
The back cover would be cool, actually. I'm thinking about it right now. Like, yeah, that's extreme Nessia right there. So.
Well, I definitely look forward to eventually reading the book and having you back as a guest to discuss the book and market the book. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, right after this, I'm gonna go and buy the recorder and like get started. Even though it's just gonna be me talking for now.
Hey, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it because even when I do go back on the road with the girls, when they go back on tour, I'll be able to have my recorder with me, and when we get some downtime or something, I can definitely just like say stuff, random stuff. Because like I'm gonna have to really get my chapters in order and what I want, and then I have to talk about each story because there's so many, and it's so funny.
Chapter 75.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel it's gonna be. Like there's gonna be so many chapters. Like I'm just gonna have to like cut it.
Yeah.
Like cut some. Maybe there'll be a second book.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough to fill up 2 books. Like already, I already know it for a fact.
Well, then you've got a built-in audience. Whoever gets book 1 is going to have to get book 2.
True.
Some people aren't even going to catch on until book 2, and then they're going to have to go back and buy book 1.
True. You know what's funny though? It's like I enjoy. Like I like to buy books where they make me laugh. Like I love it. It's like, and I have no. I mean, I love to like be reading a book and like laugh out loud, like and no shame. I don't care who's around me, like, whatever. And like I enjoy it, and like I'll laugh, like if somebody's telling me a joke, and like if they're in my face telling me. And that's what I want my readers to experience. I want them when I do get readers, I want them to feel like if I'm just telling them a story, and when it's funny, I want them to laugh because I'll be laughing while I'm writing it.
Yeah.
Because I do. When I'm telling them, I'm like, oh, God, it's so stupid. Like, so stupid. But no shame, like I said. And just...
Nessia.
Nessia little shit. That's what it is.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This was definitely fun and leading to the book. I think that's awesome. I know. And I can thank my wife for that question. I asked her for some thoughts, and she said, you should ask them if somebody were to write a book about them. And she was just talking about any guest, specifically Pinata. And I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to use that question for everybody. That should be something that's continuous. So I have to thank her for that question that leads to future possibilities. And now a teaser for anybody who's listening.
Yeah, that's a good question. it did lead into it. So I was surprised that you asked it too, and I was like, speaking of that, because I was like, am I going to tell them about this book idea, or? And I was like, I'll see where this interview goes and what's happening, and if it goes that way, then I'll definitely let it out.
Well, cool. I'm glad it did go that way. Then.
Yeah, me too. Because I'm excited about this book, and I hope it comes out really well.
Me too. Like I said, I would buy, and I would actually physically buy it. I don't do that. I don't physically buy books anymore. I download books. I would physically go out and buy your book. And then I would download it if I didn't have the book with me, so I could read it.
Cool. Yeah, so. I'm excited about it. And it's funny because I already know how I want it to look, like the kind of book that I want it to be, and how I want the cover to look.
Design.
Like, I have it, everything's already in my head.
Got to get it down on paper.
Yes.
Or on digital voice recorder.
Yes, I'm definitely going to do that. I'm going to go do that. I'm going to start that today.
All right, well, I don't want to keep you any longer. I know we're right next to Best Buy.
Yeah, it's true, we are.
Well, thanks again for your time, and see you back soon.
Definitely.
This concludes part 3 of my interview with Michelle Celeste, tour manager of Girl in a Coma. Special thanks again to my wife for giving me the idea for that question about asking about a book. Turns out it worked out pretty well. I also got to chat with Michelle a little bit earlier today as I'm recording this, and she let me know that she's already pouring out everything she can into this book, and she's already got a lot of stuff written down, and she's still got so much more to go. So we can definitely look forward to that book as soon as it comes out, and you can be guaranteed that I'll be one of the first sources that you'll hear from once that happens. So far we've had a band and a tour manager. That's not all we can look forward to at 210 Local Music. As you can see on the website, I'm going to cover music, art, film, and other sorts of various entertainment in and around the greater San Antonio area. I don't have a featured artist for this week, but next week we will definitely have a featured musician, featured artist, and hopefully every week going on from that. So if you are interested in getting your band's music featured on the podcast, you can definitely email me at 210localmusic@gmail.com or info@210localmusic.com. Send me the MP3 of the song or songs that you'd like to have put into the broadcast, and I'll send you the paperwork release so you can get that filled out. And don't worry, everybody retains the right to their own songs, so I'm not taking that away from anybody at all. Just really excited to get San Antonio music out into the ears and the hands of local San Antonio listeners. And last but not least, I'd like to send out a call to action to all of my listeners. If you know of any local businesses in San Antonio, let's say mom and pops, really, restaurants or food trucks, record shops, anything that you think would be an appropriate type of business to advertise here on the show, please let me know, let them know. We'll try to get things connected so that way we can get some sponsorship going on. So that way I can continue bringing this podcast to you and continue growing it and see what we can get out of this fun trip. So thanks again for listening to 210 Local Music Podcast. This was episode 5. Stay tuned for next episode. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.